happy you do it again in the future. And today we are very excited to have our incredible volunteers from local companies joining us to share their key skills. You all signed up for our Marketing 101 in emailing writing, and we cannot thank this company enough for their help with all of it today. And I'd like to turn it over to Sarah, Kelly, Ariana, and Elise from Burns & McDonnell.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here, and if everybody can just let me know that they can see it. Can you guys see that?
Not yet. There you go.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to get started here. So I'm Ariana from Burns & McDonnell. Just do a brief introduction. So I'm a proposal coordinator here at our Wallingford, Connecticut office. I work on our proposals. I do marketing and graphic design for our New England office locations.
Hi, I'm Sarah Burrs. I'm a telecommunication engineer at Burns & McDonnell. I work on communication systems for the electric utilities.
Hi, I'm Kelly Higginbotham. I'm an electrical engineer in the substation department here. I've been here about 3 years, and I do design on the power grid.
Hey guys, I'm Elise Holder. Normally have glasses, but one of my kids hid them, so I might struggle a little bit this morning. But yeah, I'm the not a social media manager, but brand and campaign strategy manager with a focus in social media.
Okay. Just a little bit about our company. We were founded in 1898. We have about 8,000 professionals all over the world, and that includes some engineers, architects, construction professionals, consultants, entrepreneurs, and scientists. We are a 100% employee-owned firm, and we are in the top 5% of the 500 design firms by ENR. So for our agenda today, the first thing we're going to touch on is some resume touch points, some do's and some don'ts, what different companies look for when you send them your resume. Next, we're going to go over some email writing 101. Again, tips and tricks on how to send various emails, how to sign them, and to address them. Next, we're going to discuss some freelancing opportunities, how to build your brand, how to market yourself if you are a freelancer or have a skill that you want to put out there to attract some clients. And then lastly, we're going to discuss social media marketing and how it can benefit you as a whole as well as a company. So first up, we're going to do resume touch points, and Sarah was going to present this topic.
Hello, everyone. So I wanted to give you just some basic resume tips because the first part of marketing is marketing yourself. So even if you have a job that you love and you're doing every day, you should probably look at your resume yearly and make sure it's updated. There's always free resume workshops at local libraries or career fairs in the area. So those are very good resources to be able to update your resume. One of the very important things that we see that basically makes a job application or resume not even be a possibility is not having contact information. If I can't call you to say, hey, I have a job for you, there's no way you're gonna get the job, basically. Spelling and grammar is important, so make sure that you're following those rules. And if you have time, customize the resume for each job application you submit, especially if you have a lot of experience that doesn't all fit. Put the relevant experience on the resume you're submitting for that job. Some of the generic resume rules, resumes need to be on one page. The exception for that is if you're doing a CV, and that'd be more if you're in scientific research kind of position. When you're submitting a resume to an online application, submit it in PDF format. Also, make sure that you have a good file name, so it's not just like resume 7, like make it, your first, Sarah Burris resume or something. Like make it so when it goes into a file, they can find it and they know it's yours. Name and title drop. If you work with somebody at your current job, make sure, include like good, people, or, make sure you have your like nice title on there that you work for your company. Spell check, grammar check. If you are working on your current job, should be all in present tense. Past job should be in past tense on your resume. Commonly these days, we do not include references on our resumes. We don't even include the line at the bottom, see attached sheet for references. Your resume should all be about you. You can have an attachment that has references to be provided if asked. Make sure it's visually appealing. You don't want it to like hurt somebody's like mind trying to read it, and use a logical structure. So we're going to go into a couple examples of resumes. I just pulled these off. Oh, sorry. One more thing. There's certain things you don't want to include on your resume. And these are mostly for legal reasons. You shouldn't include your age, race, religion, gender, national origin, marital status. These are things like legally, like your employer shouldn't know or ask, especially when you're job hunting. At the top of your resume, it shouldn't say resume. It should probably say your name. They know this is a resume. Including slang words, anything about your like salary history isn't usually appropriate for resumes. Likewise, if you put a photo on your resume, that could also answer the age, race, and gender categories possibly. So you would want to avoid that because those are information that HR shouldn't have of a job that you're applying for. And be sure you're not lying or exaggerating on your resume. So here's the example. Sorry about that. So this is just a funny one off of the internet to kind of use it as an example. So Winnie here failed to put a email address or a phone number. So it's really hard to like ask her about anything. If you read her objective, she just wants to obtain a position within the fashion industry. She doesn't really say what kind of position, like is she a designer? What does she do? We don't know. And then if you look at her schooling, BYU, I don't know what BYU is. So make sure you spell out abbreviations. Not everybody knows everything. And then, add more details, like what kind of degree did you get? Was this an associate's? Was this a bachelor's? Did you get a master's? And then for work experience, like sometimes you need to explain the company type. You want to make sure you're explaining all the things you do in terms that other people understand. So for example, the reach daily UPT goals. I don't know what UPT means. Even if it's an industry term, it'd be good to explain what that is. And then if you have old experience, for example, this one was babysitting, that doesn't really help you in the fashion industry, they're probably not relevant and you probably should not be including that on your resume. And then at the bottom, put skills, listed skills that are good for your company. So in here, she has Adobe Photoshop. That's really good for being in the fashion industry, right? So that should be at the beginning. It's more important than, the other ones she was listed. And then adding personal interests aren't really recommended for most jobs. I mean, you definitely could put it for some jobs if it, for some reason it fits, but personal interests usually are not necessary or appropriate. So, and then looking at this resume as kind of a whole, it's laid out okay, but it's not as structured as some of them. So if we look at a good resume example, so this one, they definitely took time to use the whole page. They have it split out into different sections so that it's easy to see. I can quickly see, oh, the education's at the bottom. You can quickly see it. So at the top, she has done everything that she wasn't supposed to. There's no photo, but she has an email, she has a clear phone number. She has a LinkedIn link, which is nice. A lot of companies like to go look you up on LinkedIn to see what else, what else you have on there. And then she explains exactly what she wants to do and, what kind of job that she can, do in the middle. Then she has all of her professional experience in reverse chronological order. So she has her most recent at the top, and then it goes down from that. All of her experience kind of all fits in like what she wants to do. I'm saying she a lot, but she did not say she in here, which is very good. So there's no pronouns listed in here. Everything's organized with nice bullet points. So it's just a lot better resume. So that was just my suggestion and tips for you guys today, is just to make sure like the resumes look good and it's your first impression, and you should, spend time doing it. I am now going to introduce Kelly for email writing.
Hi, everyone. Emails are such an important part of business communications now more than ever. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of some things to keep in mind when you're writing emails and how to structure your emails in a way that you're more likely to get responses. So there's some golden rules that you need to keep in mind when you're sending emails in a professional capacity. First of which is use a professional email address. If you're applying for jobs especially, don't use the email address you made when you were in middle school. I know I still have that one, we all do, but let's keep those hidden away. I recommend having one strictly for job hunting if that's something that you're currently doing, or just having a neutral professional email address that you can use for putting on your resume, sending out professional emails. If you are in a freelancer capacity or if you are a part of a small company, it's a good idea to have standardized email formats across everyone. So, first initial, middle initial, and then your last name, for example, is very common at the company name. It just helps people when they don't know an email figure out who it's coming from, or just keeps a more uniform presentation across the company. Including a clear subject line is important. A lot of the people you're emailing will get hundreds of emails a day, and it helps to have a clear subject line so they know what they're getting into, and also so that they can find the email when they need to go back to it. This includes if you're replying to a long chain, but the chain topic has changed. I would recommend updating the subject line before you send it, so that if I know I'm looking for an email about wiring specs, I can search wiring specs and it won't be buried in an email that, was previously about something else. This is one that's coming up more and more as we become more aware of how our language matters. So I prefer to use professional gender neutral salutations unless someone has specifically given you their pronouns. I would prefer that, you be approached with gender neutral pronouns. They, them is now an acceptable singular pronoun. And then always keep it professional. If you don't know how someone likes to be referred to, use their full name or Mr., Ms. blank. You'll never get in trouble for saying it that way, whereas if someone doesn't go by their first name, it may catch them off guard and be an inappropriate way to greet them. Building off that is being conscious of cultural differences. So we have an office in Mumbai. The way we speak and communicate with them is very different than the way we speak and communicate with each other. Just something to be aware of. For example, using ma'am and sir more frequently with international communications. Just something, if you know you're going to be communicating with an office outside of the US or with people who have a different cultural background than yourself, try and be cognizant of how what you're saying may come off given that lens, and educate yourself. If there's ever a question about what's an appropriate greeting or how you can phrase something in a more culturally neutral way, ask people. There's experts on every culture. Another good thing to do is make sure you're proofreading every email. We're always so quick to send emails, and half the time there are typos and possibly embarrassing typos in our email. So definitely take a second before you press send and make sure that you're proofreading the email for spelling and grammar. Building off that, I always add the email address last. You don't want to accidentally send a half-finished email, so that just helps block you and make sure that you're 100% ready before you put that email address in. It's also a good idea to not reply all and just be careful of who you're sending it to. So I think adding the email addresses last makes you be very intentional about who this email is going to, who the audience is, and it just gives you that one extra safeguard against sending something incomplete. Some email servers, you can recall messages, but even still, it does inform the other email address that a message was recalled, so it can give off a weird message if that's not intentional. The next one is being aware of tone and humor. It's very easy to be more funny and social when you're face-to-face with someone. Over email, it often comes off inappropriate or misconstrued. So it's best to kind of keep your emails more neutral and professional. If it's someone you know and you are joking around with them, that's fine, but just be careful of how that looks on paper as well, because there's a good chance things will be forwarded on to other important parties, or it'll just be documented. So definitely be aware of how your tone and your humor comes across once it's written down and not just in your head. Building off that, email's never truly confidential. Always be aware that when you're writing emails, they can be shared and they will be documented. So make sure that only public matters are being discussed, that there isn't anything overly personal, and that you're respecting other people's privacy. A good example of this, if you're writing an email and you know something about a person, you're asking, how's your sick brother doing? Wouldn't put that in an email because that may get around and that's something that they've asked you to keep private. In addition, depending on your industry, you may have like specific websites and software that you use to send files. So be aware of company policies on sending files, how the appropriate way to do it is, and also whoever you're sending files to, make sure that their firewalls allow them to receive files, and communicate with them if there is a larger file or a sensitive document that you need to send, to make sure that you're respecting both companies' policies on confidentiality. Another good one is using BCC to maintain privacy. A good example of this would be if I was a manager and I knew that our department had specific training requirements that were coming due, I would BCC the people that I'm sending the reminder to, just so that they aren't, being exposed to their coworkers as being behind on their training. It's just a good practice when you're sending an email to a lot of people to BCC. I think it also prevents reply all issues, which is my next one. Never use reply all. Well, that's not true. Be very, very careful when you use reply all. The amount of times that we get emails that should have just been a reply to the sender and where reply all is crazy. So just, if you're using reply all, make sure that it is something that everyone in the conversation needs to know and not something that you just need to send back to the organizer. So the signature of your email is very important. It's the equivalent of your digital business card. It's how you convey your information and put a stamp on your email, basically. So these are the elements of our email signature. It'll vary by company and by industry, but this gives you a good starting place if you don't currently have an email signature of what would be in a personal email signature and a professional email signature. So my email signature starts off with my name, my license, and the company that I work for. Pretty standard. They need to know who you are, what you're doing, and where you are. The next line below that is our role in our department. Most companies have specific rules on what can be said and what can't. For example, in engineering, I can't say I'm an engineer because I'm not a licensed engineer. So just something to think about. If you are in an industry that has licensure, make sure that you're using the correct terms to describe your position. From there, provide phone numbers, whatever you're most likely to use. Whether you use your cell phone for your business is up to you or your company. We tend to put it just so that we're available. So I have my office phone listed first because that should be the primary way of contacting me. And I have my mobile phone listed in case people need to get me after hours or if I'm not picking up my office phone. Always provide your email and the company website if there is a website. We'll talk a little more about company websites when we get through to the next presenters, but it's a good way to make sure that your information's there. If your email gets forwarded a bunch of times and someone needs to get back in touch with you, I think it's important to still list it, even though they'll have your email in the received line. You never know where that email is going to end up. So it's good to have your contact information in the body of the email as well. And then we put our street address. Not often are things mailed to us anymore, but it's good to have just in case. So that would be kind of the extent of a professional or of a personal email signature. Would just be your name, your contact information. Depending on your company, if it is a professional email signature, there may be additional information that's added at the bottom. This is pretty common for companies because there's other accolades or disclaimers, things like that that we need to have. So ours, for example, has our social media links. Some of the recent accomplishments of our company, just, kind of shows who we are, the type of work we do. We have an environmental disclaimer, we have a confidentiality disclaimer, and then we have a link to one of our social media campaigns. So depending on what industry you're in, you may see different things on people's email signatures. As long as you have your name, your contact information, and where you're contacting from, it's a good place to start. And then you kind of grow from there based on, what information is pertinent to your company. So like Sarah, got some examples from Google so that we could talk through. Mine are both good examples. This first one is about freelancing. It's a very interesting market because you're always putting yourself out there and cold calling and trying to get business. So I thought this would be a good email to walk through if you are kind of in that industry. So the email reads, I saw your ad on paid writing gigs for freelance writers and I'd like to apply. So that first sentence, very direct, it explains why this person is contacting and where they found out about you from. I would recommend, if you are contacting companies from a freelancing perspective, finding out where you heard about them or if there's a referral, making that clear, I think adds validity to your claim. She continues on to say, I feel that writing for your site would be a good fit as I have a passion for creating quality, rich, and engaging articles on a wide variety of topics. I also have my own blog that I use to develop my blogging skills and provide informative yet relatable posts. So right off the bat, she is, I'm going to use she pronouns just because Elna sounds like a female name, but it's not explicitly said. She is marketing herself. She is highlighting her own accomplishments in her blog. She moves forward to say, I'm adept at researching and writing on almost any topic, and as a woman and a mother from Canada, I can offer my insight on life up north. If you hire me, you will be assured each article that I produce will have, and she includes a bulleted list of her experiences and what she brings to the table. I think lists are a great way to make your emails more powerful. If you're sending a really long email, a lot of people check email on their phone now, and it's very difficult to read. So I recommend keeping your email succinct, or if you are including multiple questions or multiple statements that kind of can be bulleted, I would recommend using bullets. It just helps the eye kind of follow the email a little better, and you're less likely to get lost. She says you can find her CV on LinkedIn. Again, LinkedIn is a really great tool. We'll talk about that a little more moving forward. I definitely recommend, if you are adding links to an email, you make sure they're hyperlinked correctly. You can hyperlink them as the actual website, or she could have linked to the word CV to go to her LinkedIn page. So those are really good ways to include links. And she also highlights her social media. So if you have professional social media, I would include that in your signature or in the body of the text if it's relevant. And again, just make sure those hyperlinks are active so that the person doesn't have to copy and paste the link. They can just click and go. And then in her signature, she has her name, and I'm assuming her website. Simple, effective. So this is an example when you're applying for a job of sending an email cover letter. Back in the day, you would send your actual resume and a cover letter in the mail. So over email, we want to make sure that we're still conveying that professional, formal tone in what we're saying. So the strong subject line relates to including the requisition number is important if you are applying for a job that has been posted online and there is an identifying number, or if you get a number for your application, make sure that you're listing that so that they can get linked appropriately. And they're almost using their objective from their resume as that subject line. Makes sense, because that's the first thing you want to convey, and if you get that email, that's the first thing you're going to see. So, dear Alice, probably wouldn't use a first name basis if you're applying for a job unless it's someone that you know or have worked with previously. I would probably go with a to whom it may concern, just because it's a little more formal and it prepares for the fact that you're probably sending this to an inbox that multiple people check if it's a recruitment inbox. So wouldn't go with the first name basis on the greeting. The first sentence highlights what they're doing. They're supplying the resume for the requisition. They go on to describe some of their experience. Again, use those strong action words that Sarah described. Make sure that it's clear, any acronyms, and how you're related to the industry, all of that. At the end, there's a clear call to action. This is important for all the emails you send. It's very easy to send a really long email that you get to the end of it and you're like, I don't know what I'm actually supposed to do with this information. So make sure that if there is an action item or there is a specific thing that you're looking for, you include that at the end. This person has a very formal sign off. They have sincerely, which is, I would say, appropriate for applying for a job. And their signature has their LinkedIn, their Gmail, and their phone number. They've embedded the resume as a PDF, which is what we had discussed with Sarah as a good practice. Just prevents any issues with uploading the file. It's neater. And it also helps you to see what's actually there, because you can lose track of track changes if you're sending a Word document, whereas when it's printed in a PDF, you know exactly what they're going to see. So business writing in general is more than I could cover in 15 minutes, but thankfully there are a lot of resources out there if this is something that interests you. Communication in the business industry is how you build relationships and how you really market yourself, build business, and maintain business. So I included a couple websites on how to write emails and effective email communication. These all had really thorough, detailed explanations of what you should include in your emails, how to structure them in an effective manner, and any etiquette things that you should keep in mind for sending emails. And if you want to zoom out a little and discuss more business writing overall, here are a couple books that are very well known for the lessons they teach about business writing and how you can use your language to effectively share your services. So definitely recommend checking those out if this interests you. I think that communication is just so important with this very digital world. So definitely don't underestimate the power of a good email. So I'm going to hand over to Ariana to talk about freelancing.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kelly. All right, so we're going to be talking about freelancing and how to market yourself. We're going to kind of take this by a step-by-step process. So first off, we're going to kind of talk about what we're going to discuss during this section. First, we're going to talk about a business name. How do you come up with the name? What type of name will attract potential clients or potential employees? Then we're going to talk about how to design a logo. Even if you're not artistic, everybody can design a logo. Where to do it and how to do it, and also if you need assistance, where you can go to get that. Next, we're going to talk about branding. A lot of people, when they start freelancing or start a company, they feel the need that they need to hire a professional marketing firm to do their branding to make sure everything is cohesive. We're going to talk about today how you can do that on your own. I mean, obviously, everybody can always go out and hire a marketing firm, but to probably get the steps going before you end up doing that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to promote your business. How do you get yourself out there? You might have amazing services, but you feel like people aren't coming to you and you're not attracting clients. So we're going to discuss how to attract the correct clientele and how to get your name out there into the community. All right, so first up, our business name. One thing we always say is you want to keep it short and keep it simple. You never want someone to have a mouthful when they're talking about your company. You want it to be concise and to the point. So we always say a couple words max. Utilize your name. If you are a tutor or a photographer, someone as an individual who is building like an LLC, or someone that is just doing gigs here and there, utilize your name so that way people can connect the brand to you. This, like I said, this is definitely beneficial when it's a very small company or just someone doing things here and there. As an example, when I was in college, I did a freelance company. I did my photography and graphic design, which is what I did throughout college before I ended up working at Burns & McDonnell. And I utilized my name, which we can talk about next. So I used acronyms and symbols. So my first name is Ariana, my last name is Devanzo, and I did visuals. So I called my company Arigizo Visuals. So I did ADV. So on all of my photography and graphic designs, I was able to just use those acronyms right at the bottom, and then use hashtags and things like that in social media, which we'll talk about later. But utilize patterns, repetitive letters. Like as an example, we have like AAA, AAA, but people call it AAA. So utilize those repetitive letters and acronyms to get your point across. And then lastly, create mashups. There are so many companies out there that created their own word. They blended words together to create a new meaning. An example of this would be Netflix. Internet for net, and flicks for movies. Netflix. So think about different words that describe what you do and then make a list and then see where you can kind of take 2 syllables, one from each word, and kind of blend them together to be a cohesive name. Next, we're going to talk about how to create your logo. Now, I know this is very scary to many people, especially people who say, I can only draw stick figures, but we can take it step by step. Next, the first thing you need to do is, where are you going to design your logo? A lot of people believe that you need to use Adobe InDesign or Illustrator. Yes, those are amazing, amazing programs that you can definitely utilize to make your logo. But if you're just starting off at freelancing and you just need something very simple, I recommend a free program called Canva. It's just an online website that you can go to create different, different logos and designs. They also have a lot of free artwork that you can utilize. Or you can also go to your local library or local college or school. A lot of these places offer free sessions on how to utilize Adobe InDesign or Adobe Illustrator. And then they also have the software downloaded on their public computers. So I would definitely look at your public resources and see where you can locate those programs. Next thing you have to consider is where you're going to be using your logo. This is going to determine a lot when designing your logo. Is this something that you are just going to be pushing digitally, whether that's on your website or through social media? Is this something that you're going to be printing on pens or on shirts or on banners? That will determine how large and how small to design your logo. It'll also determine like what colors you use, which we'll talk about next. So how will you design it? Minimal is always best. We always recommend using clean lines. That is in regards to printing, because you don't want to get something too busy, because then when you print it, it doesn't look clean and precise. And probably utilize one color. If this is something that you're going to be making a lot of marketing material on, you pay by how many colors the print shop needs to use. So if you can make your logo one color, you'll end up saving money in that aspect. Utilize symmetry and commonly used imagery to design your logo. So as an example here, I have an apple that might be able to be used for someone who is tutoring, someone to do something with school, because in our world, we associate the apple symbol with teaching and education. And symmetry is always nice. That way, if someone only sees a portion of the logo, they'll automatically know what it is. A lot of logos that we see today have symmetry, such as like Target and Walmart. All of their logos are very simple but precise, and when people see them, they automatically know what company that is. And then lastly, if you still feel like you need assistance, always utilize Google. Google is your best friend. Look up different logos. Now, you don't want to copyright a logo, but you want to be able to just get ideas, get your juices flowing when you're thinking about what you want to design. You can also utilize websites such as Fiverr. Fiverr is a graphic design website where you can hire local people to design your logo. There are people as cheap as $5 to design a logo. And then they'll send you all of the different file formats, and then you can use those in basically any sort of marketing material that you might need to produce for your company. Fiverr is also very quick. And you can also utilize different universities. So as I was saying, when I was in college, I had a few people approach me about creating logos. And since I was just in college, I didn't have that professional fee. So you can always locate someone that just might be artsy or have that ability to design something. And then you can then take that to someone to make it digital. And then Etsy. Etsy is also obviously a place where people can go to do their crafts. But you can go on there, and they also have different digital renderings that people create, and you can utilize someone there to help design your logo or get some ideas. Next, we're going to talk about consistent branding. So as I stated in the beginning, a lot of people feel the need when they start their company that they need to hire a marketing firm to get the ball rolling. When in reality, there are different steps that you can take as an independent employee to brand yourself and to get your name out there. First, you want to design a website. Now, this might seem scary. Everyone talks about HTML and all that kind of stuff, but there are programs such as Wix and Squarespace that are extremely user-friendly. You can go on there and you can just drag and drop different sections onto the website. And both of these websites offer free subscriptions. You can obviously pay for higher level subscriptions, which offer more capabilities, but their free subscriptions are just fine. I used Wix personally. I've used that a few times with creating different websites for different clients and stuff like that. Extremely user-friendly. You can manipulate it in any way that you want. So I highly recommend getting your website out there, and then also making your URL simple, short and simple. Don't put, if you end up making your brand name that's longer and it doesn't have an accessible URL, shorten it. Make it short and sweet, because you're going to be putting this information all over the place, such as business cards and your social media. Business cards. After you get your logo created, you can either utilize Staples. They have an awesome print section where you can just design your logo and upload it and then print your business cards there. Or you can also utilize Vistaprint. They have a lot of pre-made business cards that you can use. But if you already have your logo designed, then I would highly recommend just creating things from scratch, even if it's just simple, your name with your logo and then your contact information. But make it consistent to you. Vistaprint is nice because they do have a lot of those templates, but you always have to keep in mind that those templates are used by hundreds and hundreds of other people. So you want to make something unique to you. I highly recommend using Gmail for your business account. I recommend this one, as Kelly stated before, you want to always use a professional email address when you're doing professional emails. And then also because Gmail has a bunch of other capabilities with it, including their like Google Drive. So if you are in a business where you need to supply virtual forms or maybe different contracts or anything like that, or photography or graphics or anything like that, you can utilize their Google Drive for sharing larger documents. And almost everybody has access to all of these. So you're able to just quickly send that out, and that's all inclusive with your free Gmail account. Lastly, your marketing material. Create your flyers, go to events, go to public spaces, go to your local coffee shop and drop off your business cards. But you want to make some marketing material that you can promote and use. If you tell people like, hey, I do this, this, and this, it's always great to promote that way, face to face. But once you're done with that conversation, you're able to give them your business card or give them a brochure or a flyer about an event that you might be doing. That way, when they then go in their car, because you know they're just going to toss it into the next seat, the next day when they see it, it'll remind them of what your conversation was about. And then next, social media. Create your business accounts. You don't want to use your personal business account or your personal social media account for your business account. And there are many reasons as to why you don't want to do that. You want to keep everything very professional and everything connected to your brand. You can reshare different items that are cohesive with what you're trying to promote, but Elise will talk about that in the next section. And then next, how do you promote yourself? So now you have your brand name, you have your logo, and you have some of your marketing material together, but how do you get yourself out there? Utilize public spaces, create flyers, place them out there, go to different colleges. If a college is having an event, or go out there and pass out some flyers. Go to coffee shops. People love going to coffee shops and sitting there and doing their work. Place some of your business cards at the front. Ask the person who owns the coffee shop if you can place some business cards there. And your business cards are going to be nice and clean. They're going to have your logo, your services, your name, so people can contact you. So that's always a great place, because when people are sitting down, they can just fiddle with your business card and then give you a call. Your logo. Use your logo on absolutely everything you do. This is so it becomes familiar and recognizable. So when people see it, they don't obviously need to see your name. They just see your logo and they know who you are. Join some clubs and affiliations. Join groups that highlight what you do. Again, if it's photography, join some local photography groups. If it's tutoring, join different school systems. Join, go to their meetings, their public hearings to get your name out there. Reviews. This is something that I highly recommend that I feel like is a step that many miss. when you are creating your website, your Wix or Squarespace or wherever you create it, have a tab where people can leave reviews. People see companies and it's always really great when like, yeah, you sound so fabulous and you sound like you do an amazing job, but I want to hear from people that have actually used your services to determine if I want to go with you. People always rely on reviews. I know myself and many others when they're looking at maybe going to a restaurant or doing something or utilizing someone for their service. I want to hear from someone that has used them before so I know that what they're actually telling me is true. Events. Attend local events or create an event. Go to different, if you are promoting like a cooking, your chef abilities, go to local farmer markets and hand out your business card. Go to different like fairs or career fairs or anything like that where you can promote yourself. That obviously you can go to any event, but I would make sure the event is kind of cohesive with what you're providing. And then social media. Elise will talk about this more, but utilize social media. Go to different public pages, whether that's like a local town page where you can be like, hey, I do this, this, and this. If you're interested, contact me at my professional email address here or visit my website here. Have your friends reshare the things that you do to get your name out there. Every time someone reshares something or posts it, that's one more person that will get a look on your page. And then these are some of the resources that I talked about. Obviously, we have Canva and Fiverr, which are the graphic design websites. Then you have Wix and Squarespace. Again, these are only recommendations. These are sources that I have personally used, but obviously there's a bunch of other ones that you can utilize. But these are easy to use website design pages. And then Etsy, Vistaprint, and Staples are where you can get your marketing material. I feel like Staples is overlooked sometimes, but their printing services, when they have their deals and their coupons and stuff like that, you can get really good prices on t-shirts and banners and like tablecloths if you're going to craft fairs or anything like that. So I highly recommend looking into them and then just scoping out their different sales that they have. All right, and next up we will have Elise.
Hey guys, good morning. Can you hear me okay, Ariana?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. All right, you want to go to the first slide for me? Okay, so first we're going to talk about social media marketing, not in the greatest detail because we only have about 15 minutes. I want to open up for questions, but basically social media is the use of social media, or social media marketing is the use of social media platforms and websites to promote a product or service. So I think it's important to understand misconceptions about social media and how it's evolved. It's really gone from being, a platform to like stalk our exes, share pictures from parties, catch up with family like all over the world, to now where pretty much every single company in the world can or should rely on it as a platform for getting their brand story out there, for connecting with their clients or prospects, and most importantly, building revenue. So I like to say if a company does not have a social presence, you simply don't exist. Next slide. Okay, cool. So in true 2020 fashion, I want to go through the risks first, like get rid of all the bad so that we can talk about the good. So what are those obstacles and risks? Social media, as everyone knows, is immediate. So it's going to require, if you have that business account, daily monitoring. That can be very difficult depending on how active you are, how engaged your audiences are. So it may be worth, divvying up responsibilities with other members of your team. If you're a freelancer, making sure that you set a pace for yourself of how much you're putting out there so that you can keep up with the conversations. Because once it is out there, it's out there. Even if you delete them, they're still existing somewhere. So be mindful of that. Another thing that everyone has to always be aware of is social bullying and harassment. I think that, even on the personal level, we experience that, whether someone's talking about politics or, the other sides that were our opponents are a lot stronger. They're a lot louder on social because they're not right in front of you. So be aware that, that negative feedback, information leaks about your company can really lead to some pretty detrimental issues. And then, of course, false or misleading claims made on social media. So that can, make you subject to consumer law issues related to that. The top risk, of course, is not having a plan. So before you open that business account, develop the social media plan with your own guidelines to keep you on track, a schedule, review process, your budget if you're going to do paid social advertising, an understanding of your audience, and then of course your goals. So this will allow you to manage your social media presence consistently and with purpose and strategy. And then you can go to the next slide. Okay, cool. So here's the benefits. So I like to build your brand stories really first. So in an age where commodities are really a dime a dozen, brand is your differentiator, as Ariana has talked about. The brands that win are the ones that create the greatest inclinations to interact, the ones that are going to forge those emotional connections. So first and foremost, make sure you have your brand story. You know what types of customers you're looking to attract. The benefits of social media really, I don't want to read through this entire list, but primarily attract customers, build revenue, exchange ideas with your customers, learn more about what they need, learn what your competitors are doing, keep an eye on them, seeing like what's the latest and greatest they're talking about, or the most innovative, maybe tools they're using and selling to the same audiences that you're trying to get in front of. Social media is also a great source for recruitment. So LinkedIn is particularly really what people use for recruitment. So if you use that, I think that, that's probably, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile and you're trying to get a job, that raises some flags, like who is this person? Again, it's that whole, if you don't have a presence, you don't really exist. You can go to the next slide. So there's different types of social media. I like to call them all campaigns. So if you have a hashtag where no one else has it and you want to make it unique to your brand, I think that that's very important and very strong for you to, identify first in your social plan, so that you can link all of your content and that your audience can link their content to that one hashtag. So I wanted to give an example from our company that we've used successfully this year. So Burns & McDonnell's, an engineering construction company, we had obviously experienced a lot of heartaches and troubles during COVID, just because we serve critical infrastructure sectors where projects have to go on and we have to have people in the field. They don't get to stay home and work at home. These are our construction personnel. And really what we wanted to do was highlight, it was a goodwill campaign. It was just, we didn't want to drive people to any specific service page, content, or advertisement. It was just really to highlight the sacrifice and commitment of those frontline construction workers. And really what we found out is that, this campaign really resonated with people. It had over 17,000 engagements, many of whom were our top clients. Here's an example of one from the Kansas Turnpike Authority. If you find a subject, especially people, when you feature your people, when you feature yourself, like that human element, it's so important because that is like what we connect to as humans. So make sure that when you are sharing things, you also humanize it. It's not just I provide legal firm services or whatnot and drive them to your service page. It should also include more of who you guys are and your brand story. So you can go to the next slide. And then these are just a few more example posts that I thought might be helpful if you guys want to check them out in terms of language and how we were promoting it through different platforms. And then you can go to the next slide. Okay, and then once you develop your goals and strategy, what is it that you're going to actually promote? So thought leadership is a term that's used everywhere now. It's just basically perspectives on the product, services, or industry related trends that you want your clients would be interested reading. So if you write a white paper on a new technology that you're utilizing that you've exclusively done in-house, and then have that white paper live on one of your website pages, you can drive people to there. And then they're going to also navigate throughout your website and see who you are and learn more and more about you, ultimately hopefully creating that relationship and then revenue. sharing news releases, articles, any sort of conference or events that you're going to be attending. Like Ariana said, that's such a critical part of branding yourself, is attending things. I know that now is a little hard, but when things do get back to normal, make sure you're out in the community with the right folks that you're trying to interact with and sell to. You can promote charitable initiatives you do, your website, personal achievements and milestones. I know that we should have a business profile and a personal profile, but sometimes merging those together, and of course, like I mentioned before, adding that human element is super important to your business profile. So don't hold back on sharing who you guys are, who you stand for as a company, and what you've achieved individually. Positioning on cause-based marketing initiatives and understanding that this will define your brand. So things like climate change, breast cancer awareness, Black Lives Matter, Movember, diversity and inclusion are all subjects that everyone cares about. So where your company stands on those subjects could be important depending on what you're selling. In some cases, they could be unfortunately divisive if you bring up politics, for example. But I think it's important as a brand to demonstrate where you stand on especially these social environmental issues that everyone cares so much about, in a respectful tone, and even if that just comes to resharing what maybe a prominent organization that is working to fight change or something is doing, that could be enough of your position. You could just simply reshare something and say, we support blah 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 blah. And then a couple images I included here. Fenty Beauty's, if you ever want to read a case study, read that, with understanding what the consumer was asking for and directly like building a company around that. Rihanna is I think maybe owner or main shareholder in that, where she understood there's so many different skin tones, and people with darker skin tones specifically have a lot of trouble finding makeup that matches or makeup that works for them. So they built like an entire company around just that one problem. So understanding like what your audience is saying, what they need, is just so critical. So I advise everybody to read about that. And then the other graphic I have here is more on that cause-based initiative, so the impact we make on hunger. And then obviously, this was the Feeding America Network, so they're going to have some big numbers. But if you donate to a local food bank or have a photo of you, photos are so powerful to share on social media, of you with your brand. Like Ariana said, that having the logo associated with one of these things or one of these causes is just so important. Keep it fun, respectful, aligning with those ultimate goals that you have in the social media plan, because the goal is to increase your brand awareness, engagement with existing and prospective clients. And then the last slide that I have here is just a quote I like. Successful social media marketing, not built on impressions, it's built on relationships. Meaning, like, analytics are great and they do tell a story, but really that one-on-one engagement with your clients is really what I think can help drive a brand. Just getting one person to stand by your brand and re-promote it to all of their followers or whatnot is just, I mean, it's critical, and I can't even, the value is just incredible. So, harnessing those personal relationships with people that have subscribed to who you are as a company and believe in your services is so important. So just wanted to end it on there. I think we only have a couple minutes for questions now. But does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask?
I have a question. For social media, do you have any recommended tools to use for scheduling or planning?
Yeah, there's quite a few actually, and you know what I'll do? I'll follow up with a list of those. I actually have a list that I didn't include here, like where they can actually bring them all together, so that you do get like, you don't have to go to each channel necessarily to update. And then there are other ways to engage social media companies from a business perspective, where you can pay. I don't think it's too much of an investment, but I think that the return is really great, where you can get a deeper dive into into the analytics of your audience and understanding who is viewing your content, what people are sharing, so that you can develop your social strategy around that. So I will follow up with that list afterwards.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm just writing our email addresses in the chat in case anybody comes up with any questions or anything that they wanted to discuss. They can just send us an email.
I will do mine as well.
All right, does anybody have any other questions about anything that we discussed or possibly anything that they wanted to talk through as a group? Now would be a good time because we can utilize everybody's minds here.
Cool. And if you guys, when you find us, on LinkedIn or whatever, connect with us, and I think that that's a really fun, easy platform to see like who we are as a company and how we are promoting our brand. So please do so on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for your time, and I think the presentation really included so much information, helpful in different aspects of marketing. So thank you, and I know I'll be referring back to everything you shared with us. And I know a lot of other people will forward all this information today. I am recording right now, so I know a lot of people will find it useful. So thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Bye,
Good luck
guys.
with the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, girls. Excellent job.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
Very
you.
impressive.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.